There are currently tens of millions of people displaced around the world, from wars, from famines and from other natural disasters. And I think anyone would think, how can I help? We went out to Jordan and we interviewed a large number of refugees, and we discovered that their first concern was security, but their second was shelter. And that seemed to fit the department very well, where we've got building physicists, architects and civil engineers.
Often at the point of displacement, people are rapidly moved into temporary shelters, which might often be tents. And as the displacement situation continues, they are transitioned into intermediary shelters. These are only meant to operate for maybe a period of months, maybe 12 months or something. But we know that in reality, some people have lived 20 to 25, maybe even 30 years in what should have only been temporary accommodation.
I think it took us around seven days and 8 nights to walk from Afghanistan to the refugee camp in Pakistan. My mum used to tell me, because I was very young, that it was a very, very difficult journey, because she had to carry her kids in whatever she could eat throughout the road, because my father was in prison and she was alone and she had to take care of us.
I don't have a very difficult displacement experience, because I was already a student in the UK when the war started in Syria, but I could, you feel like you want to do something. So when this project came, I had just finished my PhD in environmental design. I felt that I could use my expertise and try and do something with it.
As an anthropologist, I brought to the project a kind of set of questions, around different understandings, different considerations, not just in terms of the kind of social and cultural, but also the political.
Ours was the first and by far the largest international study of refugee accommodation. We interviewed a lot of refugees, but we also did participatory workshops where we worked with the refugees to design their accommodation.
So we've used physical models to see how they would adapt it and what changes they would make to those shelters, because they have actually already done that in real life. We've also used virtual reality as a way of engaging with displaced people. We created a game where they were able to change the design of the shelter to how they would like it to look like and feel like if they were to live in it.
There's a lot to consider, both from a practical point of view and from an ethical point of view, from a research point of view, in pursuing a participatory approach, but it's absolutely essential. There's so many mistakes I think we would have made if we'd not actually tested out our ideas with people.
At first, when I started the project, I was like, okay, now I have the chance, I'm going to design the best refugee house ever in the world, and I'm going to solve all the problems. But then I realized actually it's not about the product, it's more about the process. My aim was to integrate or administer the science of building or building physics into the design process of refugee housing.
My role in this project was to aid in the development of a very, very simple design tool that people who are experts in the business of putting together refugee shelters, and there are wonderful experts, humanitarian workers, aid agencies, but they may not have the skills to be able to model what the impact of a choice of a particular material is on the indoor environment.
My focus is energy and buildings, so in that regard I'm aligned to the themes of the project. But in short, I'm a building contractor, happens to work in academia. That's how I got involved with David in some previous projects, and when this one came up, it seemed a natural fit for him to approach me and say, would I be prepared to undertake the build phase out in Jordan. Thermal modelling, as good as it is, doesn't tell you the problems of building something, of logistics, of getting materials, of working with untrained people, the harshness of the climate, and all the other things that go working in an inhospitable part of the planet. So we learned lots of vital lessons, not just for us, but for the UNHCR and other shelter builders in that regard.
We've already had a series of major impacts. For example, we've produced the Shelter Assessment Matrix, which is a tool which allows architects in the UK or other countries, or the aid agencies themselves, to put together rational shelter designs. Another tool we've produced is ShelTherm, which predicts the inside temperature in the shelter and tries to ensure the temperatures are suitable, particularly for the vulnerable.
If the humanitarian aid agencies implement and use what we have created, you may not change everything, but you can solve a massive problem of the families who are going to live there for years and just every day keep thinking about the problem and not being able to do anything about it.